Welcome to episode 17 of the Sweet Sparrow Knits podcast. My name is Julie, and you can find me on Ravelry and Instagram as Sweet Sparrow Knits. I am back to podcasting after quite a long hiatus. I had a lot of lifey stuff happening. Most notably that I have become a full-time indie dyer and maker, for which I thank you guys so much because you made it possible. So thank you. And I'm super excited to get back into recording every week because I've really missed talking to you guys and sharing what I've been working on. So let's get to it. Works in progress. My first work in progress is this sock. Right now it just looks like a vanilla sock, but it will be the Alice's Toe Up Cable Socks by Amy Loberg, also known as Fiber Wild. That's like the name that she designs under. And I'll insert a picture of the finished item now. Did I do it? Did I remember to do it? I hope I did. So these socks are actually going to be a gift. I am knitting these for my mother's Irish flute teacher. Her 60th birthday is coming up, and my mom asked if I would knit her some socks, and I said of course. And since my mom knows her from playing the Irish flute and enjoying Irish music, I decided to do them in the Irish soda bread colorway. This is Sweet Sparrow Yarns, the Nuthatch base. Let's see if I can get the camera to focus on it. There we go. And this was an early version of the Irish soda bread colorway when I was originally planning on having it be entirely this sort of soft beige color with burgundy speckles for the raisins. But I eventually decided to mix sort of this beige color with some undyed sections because I realized that what this colorway was missing to make it really Irish soda bready was some white for the flour that gets sprinkled on top. So yeah, I'm really excited about how these are turning out. I really love how the yarn is speckling. I think it's going to be really, really pretty, and I think my mom's flute teacher will enjoy them. And I am knitting these on my carbons, circulars. I knit my socks on 2 circular needles in the US size 2. Next work in progress. My granny stripe blanket. Oh, I love it so much, you guys. It's the best. It's the best project ever. So I actually started this when Jacqueline from the Brooklyn Knit Folk podcast was over at my house for a Christmassy slumber party around the holidays, and she had brought hers, and I was like, oh, that's really pretty. Maybe I should start one. And Jacqueline very helpfully enabled me into starting one. She was like, oh yeah, you definitely should. I was like, oh, I don't know, I have so many blankets on the needles. No, I couldn't resist. So this is my granny stripe blanket. Oh, I love it so much. It's so cozy. I love working on this. This is my comfort project. I crochet on this usually in bed. If I'm like watching a podcast before I fall asleep, something like that, then I'm usually working on this project. And I decided to make mine about the same width as Jacqueline's. I wanted mine to be wide enough to cover a queen size bed and not like hang super far off the edges, but just enough to cover the top of it. because I figure that way it'll be big enough for two people to comfortably snuggle under when one of those people is a blanket hog and inevitably steals all the blankets. So just to give you an idea of the width, we'll do camera screens wide. And I would say that right now, the amount between my hands is about 2 feet. So there's 1, 2, a little bit more than 3. So it's a little bit wider than 6 feet across, which means that every row on it takes a little while, but that's okay. I don't mind. I love this project. So the technical aspects of this, I am crocheting mine with a size E hook. It's the awful conundrum. When you go to see if it's focusing, it stops focusing because then it focuses on your face peeking around to see if it's focusing. Whatever. You can see it. It's a crochet hook. It's a size E, and this is just a boy, what is it? Soft touch? Something like that. It's like the squishy handle one. However, I am very excited because I recently ordered a hand-turned wooden crochet hook for this project. I can't remember the name of the shop. I wasn't planning on talking about this because I was going to wait until it got here before I actually showed it to you. But I'm so excited about it that I can't. I have to mention it immediately. So hopefully I put the name in like this little area here. So most of my blanket is fingering weight yarn, but there are bits of it that go up to a DK weight, and for those, like, where's a good example? So this blue row right here, that is some of my earliest hand spun, and it is quite uneven. So I did 2 double crochets for most of that, but there are areas where the hand spun got a lot thinner, and I did 3 double crochets in those areas. It's a scrappy project, and as long as it basically works, I'm not super concerned about it. It doesn't have to be perfect. I love it. So that is a second work in progress. And then my third work in progress, these are so close to being a finished object. So close. That's kind of my MO in general, to be honest with you. This is, Jacqueline actually slept over at my apartment last night. We had a little friends night of knitting and watching podcasts and chatting. It was wonderful. She's fantastic. But she, so Jacqueline kind of has to coax me along through a lot of my projects because I'll be so close to the end and then I'll like stall out on them. So my calligraphy cardigan, which is done by the way, I don't think I ever showed that on the podcast. I'll show it next week. I've got a lot to talk about today as it is. I had like half a sleeve and the button band left and I just stopped knitting on it. Jacqueline was like, "What are you doing? You gotta finish that. It's so close to being done." So I did finish it and I love it and it's so cozy. And then the same thing happened on one of my finished objects for today, which is my featherweight cardigan. I had literally 1 inch of sleeve ribbing plus the neckband left to go. And I just stopped knitting on it. What's with that? Why do I do that? Why? Do any of you guys have that problem? And if so, how do you get through it? How do you convince yourself to just power through and finish that project? And it's not like I'm even like, you know, actively thinking about knitting on it. It goes in a project bag and then I'm done with it for a little while. But it's not done. All right, I'm ranting about this. Anyway, my next work in progress is a pair of self-striping socks. Ah, so fun. So these are, in my yarn, these are Sweet Sparrow yarns in the ice cream shop colorway. Okay, there we go. And the toes and cuffs are in my Magpie base in the Peach Fizz colorway. So all I have left to do on these is to insert the Afterthought heels, which you guys know how I am with that. Let me show you something. Okay, this is my secret shame. I have this basket that I keep socks that need heels in. I just removed 3 pairs of socks from this basket. So socks that currently need heels. This is also interesting because this is where all my sock needles went, apparently. I was wondering where they all went. I have a lot of sock needles and I couldn't find any. Okay, so socks that need Afterthought heels. The ice cream shop socks. Acceptable because I just finished these a few days ago. My ridiculously long, I don't even remember what this yarn was. I'll have to look back through past show notes because I'm sure I wrote it down in there, but I have one of these heels done. I even have a needle inserted. For the second one, I just need to go ahead and put in one more needle, snip, and knit off a heel, and I'll have a finished pair of socks. Guys, I started these last summer. Last summer. Ah! Hi, Coco. Want to come on up, my baby? Hello, sweet pea. Hello, little lamb. Coco came to say hello. Hi, baby. Here's little Coco. Yeah, he loves being snuggled. He's a very sweet boy. This is my little Cocoa Bean, if you're a new viewer. He is a very sweet boy. Anyway, getting back to the socks. And these super cute sock blank socks that I love, one of them has the heel started. I just need to finish it and then do one more heel. And lastly, my, what is this? Honeycombs and wildflowers? I think that's right. It might be reversed. It might be wildflowers and honeycombs. But look how beautiful those are. I love them. And I have the yarn in for the Afterthought heel. You can't really see it on this one because I forgot to bring contrasting yarn with me, so I just kind of put in some waste yarn of the same color and hoped for the best. But all I have to do is add heels to these and I'll have a really, really pretty pair of socks. Look how beautiful that lace pattern is. I really want to knit more of these socks, but perhaps first I should finish the pair that I already knit. It's so pretty. Alright, so now that you guys have seen my crazy stash of socks without heels, maybe that will shame me into finishing them. Maybe you guys will be that nun from Game of Thrones, metaphorically following me down the street, clanging a bell and chanting, "Shame, shame." If you watch Game of Thrones, that made sense, and if you don't, I just sounded like a crazy person. I totally lost my train of thought. Oh, I had shown you the ice cream shop socks. Okay. My next and final work in progress for this week is more socks. And they're gonna get an Afterthought heel. Why do I do this? I've been thinking about trying the Afterthought everything socks because maybe that would help in some way. But most likely then I would just have a bunch of tubes laying around instead of a bunch of almost finished socks. My last work in progress for this week are my mini eggs socks. And these I am knitting with a sock blank that I dyed. It's my mini eggs colorway on my Nuthatch sock blanks. I love these. It's so cute. And this is what the blank looks like. There. It's a little rumpled up from being in my project bag. But since these are Easter themed socks, I would really like to, what am I talking about? I was gonna say I'd really like to finish these by Easter. That's not gonna happen. I have these deadline Irish soda bread socks that have to be done first, and I'm like halfway through one sock. I'm not gonna finish the rest of these in the next 4 days. It's fine. I wear pastels year round, so I think these will be really cozy regardless of the time of year when they are actually finished. Okay, finished objects. So my first finished object is my featherweight cardigan. I'll go ahead and put this on. Hello. Hi, Coco. Takes a little bit of foot-tootsing to get this on right. Okay. So this is my featherweight cardigan. This is obviously the featherweight pattern by Hannah Fettig, and I knit this in Sweet Sparrow Yarns, my house wren base, which is tweed, which I love. Let's see if I can show it to you. There we go. And this is knit in the tea and cake colorway, which is one of my favorites. I am relatively happy with this sweater. I don't know that I will knit another featherweight because it was really fun to knit. I thoroughly enjoyed the knitting of it. But I don't know that this is necessarily the best shape of cardigan for me. It's a little bit hard to tell body shape when you're only seeing like this much of a person, but I have an hourglass figure, quite an exaggerated one at that. I definitely go like whoop, whoop. And I think I need something that's a little bit more fitted because I'm quite busty. I wear a D-cup bra, and I feel like the featherweight kind of just hangs off my chest and doesn't show my waist that much. It does in the length, but it doesn't necessarily show it off in the fit. So it starts kind of, it adds volume where I don't have volume necessarily in my midsection, and it's not a look that I'm thrilled with. I'll definitely wear it though because it's like a nice throw-on cardigan. This might be something that I keep like on my nightstand and just throw on when I'm knitting in bed if I get chilly. Because when you're chilly, you go, apparently. Yeah, so it was a learning experience. Not my favorite fit that I've ever had, but still pretty good. So I used, I knit the 38 3/4 inch size for this. That's based on bust size. And I knit it on a size 6 needle. I used my Carbons needles, which are my favorite. And the only modification that I made, I think I knit it maybe an inch longer than the pattern recommends. And I also knit this panel to, I think, 4.5 inches instead of the 3 inches that was recommended in the pattern, because I knew that I wanted it to cover my bust a little bit more so it didn't look like my bust just couldn't be contained by these little front panels. It just busted out. Clearly, it's been a while since I podcasted because I am not terribly composed. Oh well. So, yep, it's a decent sweater. I would give it a solid decent. And I think as I wear it more and figure out what outfits it works with, I'll like it more. But for now, it's sitting right at decent. I'm just gonna leave this on. It's a little chilly. It's a very gray day outside. I think it might rain later, which I always like. Now that I work from home, I really like rainy days because they're so cozy, especially because my apartment is extremely cozy, and rainy days really emphasize that and really just make me extra happy to be in a situation where I'm at home all the time. All the time! Between Peapod for grocery delivery and Amazon Prime for everything else delivery, I pretty much never have to leave my apartment, which is great. Hashtag hermit. No, I do leave my apartment. I go see my boyfriend. And that's it. And my second finished object, you've probably seen this finished object in yarn form if you watch a lot of the other podcasters who went to Vogue Knitting Live this year in New York, because it was pretty comical. I bought this yarn at Vogue Knitting Live and cast it on within half an hour, and my yarn ball was like this big for one skein. And this is my super snuggly giant scarf. Let me get the tag here. So I bought this yarn from the Skirted Fleece Mill at their, does that work? I have like a very childish understanding of how the focus works. I think that if I can't see the camera, then the camera can't see me. There we go. So I bought this from the Skirted Fleece Mill, and Adam and Liz, who run the Skirted Fleece, are really, really wonderful people. They actually, I know them. I didn't just happen across them, although if you did at Vogue Knitting Live, you came across really, really excellent people. So the Skirted Fleece is a mill that's pretty close to where my mom lives and where I grew up. They opened a few years ago, and Liz and Adam, who run the Skirted Fleece, are wonderful people. They're so friendly and so kind and so smart and interesting. In addition to running a mill, they also have yaks, and they do reenacting of medieval and historical battles, which I don't know if you know this, but I love that kind of thing. I am all about that. And they do the full thing where like you actually go and you camp and you wear all the period appropriate clothing, and I would love to do that. So anyway, here is my scarf, and I added tassels on every corner because obviously a really giant fluffy scarf needed giant fluffy tassels. This is obviously a super bulky yarn. I knit this on size 19 needles, which luckily I was able to purchase at Vogue Knitting Live because Loopy Mango had a booth and they specialize in super bulky yarns, and I picked up a pair of their size 19 needles, which are super cute. I should have brought them over, but they're wooden and they have a hot pink cord, which is really adorable. So just to show you how big this is, I love this scarf. It's not the world's most practical garment, obviously, but I really love it. It is so cozy and so squishy. I only wore it out of the house maybe 4 or 5 times, but considering that I only made it in January, that's pretty good. The only issue that I have really with this scarf is that it's hard to keep it on your neck because it's so thick and also quite wide, and that's entirely my fault. That has nothing to do with the yarn. I just probably should have done maybe 3 fewer stitches. Oh, did I mention that Coco loves this scarf? This is like his favorite thing to lay on. Good boy. So it is a little bit difficult to keep on. However, I'm thinking about possibly, I don't know, adding some sort of closure, or I don't know, getting like a large decorative safety pin for when I wear it, like a kilt pin almost. And that will help me keep this scarf on when I am wearing it. Coco's really happy right now. He's on my lap on the scarf. Usually he has to pick between those two things. He can either be on the scarf or on my lap. But right now he gets to be both. He's a happy boy. Okay, so those are my finished objects. Let's talk about next on the needles. And in this situation, next on the needles actually means already on the needles. These are works in progress that I need to finish. Must finish. Recognize that theme? So the first one is my Lily Pilly wrap. And the Lily Pilly is a pattern by Amba O'Brien. This is so pretty. I did not take this out of the bag before starting to record. And I forgot just how much I love this. So this is the Lily Pilly wrap. I am knitting this in O Wool, O Wash fingering in the colors Black Bear, Pearly Muscle, and Silver Maple. And it's so pretty. Look at that lace pattern. That's beautiful. And I love the colors in this. The O Wool yarn is just so squishy and gorgeous. I really need to finish this. I am on stripe, I think 35 of 100 of the second stripe section. That's the wrong side. There we go. That's really a good way to show off a project. So I really need to just finish this. I love this project. I know I'll love the finished object. I just need to go ahead and finish it. And this, I think I'm also knitting this on size 6s. Yeah, I am. And I'm knitting this on my Royale needles from Knitter's Pride. I really love these needles. They have the warmth of the wood that I really love, but then they also have the slick metal tip, which is great. And my other work in progress that I'm counting as next on the needles because it hasn't been actively worked on in quite a while are my Socks on a Plane socks for Rob. So the first one is done. It just needs an afterthought heel. Surprise. I love how the cable looks in the tweed yarn. I think that's so pretty. And the second one I am, let's see. Yeah, I'm about halfway through the foot and leg section, and then it'll just need afterthought heels. So maybe he'll get them by his next birthday since they need afterthought heels. No, I'm very determined to get these done soon because they were for his birthday in October, and I am the worst. This episode should just be called Whip Shaming. Please whip shame me so that I will finish some projects. No, don't actually whip shame me. That would be mean. I'll just whip shame myself. They say you go blind doing that. Obviously, I've totally lost my idea of what appropriate behavior is from being home all the time. Oh, there goes Coco. Reading and watching. So the first thing that I'm reading, The Little Book of Huga. And this is by Mike, I think, M-E-I-K, Viking. and I really am enjoying this book. I try to only read this when I'm experiencing hygge, which I'm sure you know what this is because it's been kind of making the rounds lately. Hygge is the Danish concept of coziness. Coziness is kind of the only word that comes close to being a translation of hygge into English. So this book, to be honest, a lot of why I bought this was for the illustrations. They're so cute. It's like a very Scandinavian looking book. So I'm really enjoying this. I don't want to go too much into, like, it's a nonfiction book, so it's hard to summarize, but basically it's talking about why the Danish are the happiest people in the world and how to help recreate that atmosphere of hygge and coziness and that feeling of well-being in your own home, which is super important to me. It always has been. I mean, obviously I didn't know the phrase hygge until about a year ago. I think I first heard it on Paula of the Knitting Pipelines podcast. But maintaining like a cozy atmosphere has always been really important to me because when I was growing up, I definitely grew up in a very cozy, comfy, happy home. We had 2 wood stoves, and I can distinctly remember coming home and getting off the school bus after school and walking in the door and having the smell of the wood stove mixed with the smell of pears that we had picked from our tree drying on top of the wood stove, and the smell of whatever my mom was cooking, and, you know, always having music on, and it was just it gives me the warm fuzzies inside to think about that. So that's the feeling that I've always tried to recreate in my home. So I highly, highly recommend this book. It's an interesting mix of like instructions and also information. There's a lot of statistics in it, which I personally really like. But it's very easy to like skip over the more like statistical sections if you want to, because they're only a few pages. So highly recommend this. Definitely check it out. And then the other thing that I am reading right now is actually something that I'm listening to. I have been listening for the second time to the Magicians series by Lev Grossman, and currently I am on the 3rd book, which is The Magician's Land. It's so good. It's so good. This is one that I would really recommend listening to the audiobook because the narrator is great. I want to say his name is Mark Bramhall, maybe? Something like that. So it's sort of, it's almost a more grown-up Harry Potter in the loosest sense, in that, like, you know, a kid goes to magical school, but he is, it's like a university in this book, and there's a lot of, it's a little bit more realistic in a way. There's definitely language, there's definitely adult content, and there's definitely violence. But I think why I love this series is because the characters are very realistic. They're not always likable. The main character, Quentin, I did not like him at the beginning of the series, and I think that gave the author a lot of room to have him grow as a character, which we all do, of course. Like, there are aspects of ourselves that we don't like and that we would like to grow, and watching Quentin's journey and the journey of all the characters really is wonderful, and I highly recommend this book if you like fantasy. If you like mythology, I think you would also like this book, because there are definitely some mythology tie-ins. So definitely give that a try. And like I said, I would recommend the audiobook for this particular series. Watching. I recently finished watching all 4 seasons of Star Trek Enterprise for the first time. I've never watched that series before. It is quite good. I don't think that it would ever steal my heart the way that The Next Generation or Voyager did, because a big part of what I like about those is that they give you a lot of hope for the future. At least that's what they do for me. They make me feel like maybe humanity will eventually progress to a point where we've solved our issues on Earth and we are ready to be out among intergalactic community, whatever. So that, since Enterprise is really set at the beginning of humankind's exploration of space, there's definitely a little bit more in the way of conflict, just finding our footing, but it's very good. I would definitely recommend watching it. If you like Star Trek and you've watched all the other series and you just haven't watched Enterprise for some nebulous reason, which is what the situation was with me. See what I did there with nebulous? Very punny. Yeah, if that's the situation, then I think you would enjoy Enterprise, and it's worth a watch. It's definitely worth a watch. That theme song is horrendous, though. It is awful. It's like, it sounds like it should be in the soundtrack of Footloose, which, coming from me, that is not a compliment. No offense if you enjoy the soundtrack of Footloose, but I do not. So just get past the theme song. Just power through it, and then you'll get some good Star Trek after that theme song. I am about to start rewatching the series Deadwood, because I love Deadwood. There's some really great characters in Deadwood, particularly Calamity Jane. Deadwood is a series that takes place in the Old West. Yeah, I haven't started rewatching it yet, but hopefully I'll do that today when I'm doing some yarn dyeing later. And then the other show that I am obsessed with is called Escape to the Country. It is a British show. It's kind of like American TV's House Hunters, but it's all people who want to move to the country in England. Or, what is it? I've watched so many episodes that I should know this. It's all people who want to move to the country in the UK. And it is the coziest show ever. It's just like beautiful shots of the countryside and glimpses into local professions and crafts, mixed with tours of these absolutely adorable homes in the UK countryside. So if you're looking for something that just is like a warm hug to watch, if you're looking for a very Huga TV show, I would recommend Escape to the Country. It's wonderful. There's a collection of episodes on Netflix, but some kind, wonderful soul has also put tons of them on YouTube. Tons of them, like 6 or 8 seasons. Oh, so good. So good. Okay, so last up is shop news. So as I mentioned earlier, I am now a full-time indie dyer and maker, which has been incredible. This is my 4th week of a full-time self-employment, and I feel like a different person. It has made such a difference in my life to be able to do what I love every single day. And my heart is happy. As dorky as that sounds, it has made such a big difference to feel creative every single day and to get to interact with you guys. That's one of my favorite things about going full time. I very rarely had time to respond to Instagram comments and to really keep up with everybody's Instagram pictures when I was both running an Etsy shop and working full time as a fashion designer. And I really wanted that. I really wanted to be more a part of the community and not just sort of post something and then leave it out there in the universe. And one of the best things about being self-employed is that I am now able to do that. I am able to respond to you on Instagram, and I'm able to watch the podcast that I've been so behind on because I just have not had any time. So thank you guys so much for making this possible. A couple of things that I wanted to talk about. I'm not going to try to catch you up on every single thing that I've done in the shop because it's been 5 months and that wouldn't be a realistic thing to try to do. So I want to talk to you specifically about one colorway. Sorry, I'm just scanning it up. I wanted to talk to you specifically about one colorway that's super important to me. It debuted in the shop yesterday, and because you guys are amazing, it sold out, and that is Kittykins. This colorway was inspired by my cats, Coco, who you saw earlier, and Murphy. Actually, I guess I should talk about that. I think most of you guys already know this because you left me such kind words, particularly on Instagram, when this happened. But my sweet baby Bucky passed away in December. He was not a young cat. He was about 14. So you guys were all so kind about that and about my Bucky. And Coco and I spent a few days in bed just comforting each other. But Coco has never been an only cat. My grandmother got Coco when he was a very young kitten, and he had lived with Bucky his entire life. And he started getting very depressed after Bucky passed away. He did not like being an only cat. He started snuggling up to, I have a stuffed animal that I've had since I was, I don't know, maybe 8 years old. And he started snuggling up to that. If I was knitting and I had a project bag, he would start snuggling up to the project bag because he was used to having someone to snuggle. So I did decide to go ahead and get, and adopt a cat, so that he would have a companion. And little Murphy came into our lives, and he is a wonderful little cat. Let's see if I can get him to come in. Murphy! Murphy! Murphy does a lot of things, but Murphy does not come when he is called. I'll go grab him. Here he is. Here's the Murph. This is Murphy. Yeah. You want to say hi? It's like, no, I do not want to say hi. I just woke this little guy up from a nap. He was not happy about that. So, we adopted Murphy, and we adopted him from a rescue organization called Secondhand Siamese. There's a truck outside. I hope it's not too loud. We adopted him from Secondhand Siamese, and they're an organization that rescues particularly Siamese cats, but they do also sometimes rescue non-Siamese cats from risky situations, like high-risk shelters or off the street. So it's the recycling truck. That's super annoying. Hopefully you can't hear it too much. If you can, then I'll cut this out and I'll re-record it later. So Secondhand Siamese, they're based in Georgia, but they rescue animals all up and down the East Coast, and then they fill up a transport with kitty carriers and deliver kitties to their forever homes. So a few days before Christmas, Rob and I went and picked up little Murphy. Come on, Bubby. Want to show your face to the camera? Yeah. Here we go. There's the little guy. There's little Murphy. He's so sleepy. He's such a sleepy boy. He's like half asleep. I can feel him like dozing off. Yeah. There you go, little bup. So I really wanted to find a way to give back to Secondhand Siamese because they are very, very caring people. Murphy has some little issues with his ears. They were not sure whether he had been part of a cat colony at some point and had his ear clipped. And then his other ear is a little bit ragged from where he clearly got in a fight at some point. So he had not been adopted, and I just saw him and I totally fell in love with him. But he hadn't been adopted, so he was going to become a therapy cat because nobody had picked him up, but he was so sweet. So long story short, I want to give back to Secondhand Siamese. So I created this colorway, which is called Kittykins, and it's based on my kitties. And 20% of the purchase price for every skein of Kittykins goes to Secondhand Siamese. And you guys bought out the shop yesterday of Kittykins. So this morning we were able to donate $60 to Secondhand Siamese, and there will be more Kittykins in the shop next week. And I think there's also going to be project bags in the shop next week. I'd like to get some project bags in there, and I'm really in the mood to sew. Thank you guys for sticking with me. I know it's been a while, but I'm very excited to be back to podcasting, and I will see you next week. Bye.